There is no two ways about it. A pool pump should not sound like this. So I think it's fair to say that it's probably not supposed to make that noise. That pump is, I'll tell you this in a minute, 20 to 30 years old. It's done its time. So let's buy a new one. Right, ignore that one because that's not a 2 horsepower pump. 2 horsepower, 2 horsepower, 2 horsepower, 2 horsepower, 2 horsepower. So if you look at the 2 horsepower ones, minimum €500 for a new pump. I don't want to spend €500 on a new pump, and one of the reasons I don't want to spend €500 plus on a new pump is, so as I say, it's 20 to 30 years old. This bit, the pump, operates perfectly well. The electrical bit, specifications here, works perfectly well. The noise, I believe, is down to a bearing. Bearings cost a few euros, a few dollars, a few pounds. €500 pounds for a new pump for the sake of a bearing? I don't want to play that game. So, as I said, 20 to 30 years old for this one. This one is 20 years old. It's the one that came with the Villa. It is a single phase. I believe it's 2 horsepower, although it's actually quite difficult to work out. It's a Premier, an American brand. It's a good quality pump. It worked well until it did not. We had some issues with the power supply, under voltage, overheat. Poppity pop goes one of the capacitors. Poppity pop goes the other capacitor. See it, there we go. And then underneath all that, all the windings are burnt, all the rest of it. So I was planning actually to get this rewound and replace the caps and reuse that. And then I had a friend who was having some work done, and they were replacing all of the pump room equipment on their swimming pool, and he said, listen, I've got a pump, it's old but it works, you want it? I said, how many pounds, euro, dollars? And he went, nothing, you can have it. And I went, bonzo, we'll have it. So that's this one. This one is older than this one. There is a little problem. This one, hence the capacitors and the 3 wires only, is a single phase motor. This one is a 3-phase motor, which is lovely. We like 3-phase. 3-phase is fantastic. I had to rewire the pool room a little bit. Luckily I had 3-phase supply next door, so we pulled it through, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so we're wired for 3-phase. I can replace it with a single phase. It's easy enough to wire it back into single phase. All the wiring's already there, no problems. But I just object to the idea of paying many hundreds for a bearing. So I'm going to see if I can strip this down. I don't even know if I can, but let's see if we can, and if we can strip it down, if we can get the bearing out. And then if I can get the bearing out, see if I can find a new one. Probably yes, because bearings tend to be generic sizes. Maybe a little bonus. Can I nick a bearing out of this one? Because the pump head assembly is the same size shaft. The diameter of the shaft is the same. So certainly the internal diameter of the bearing will be the same. Will the external for the case be the same? I might even get it for free. First things first, we need to decouple the pump bit from the motor bit. It's held together by, they call it an extension shaft in there, but it links the impeller shaft in here with the motor shaft in there. 3 little set screws. Now, of course, being American, it is a 1/8 inch Allen key hex head. Just so happens that by sheer coincidence I happen to have American stuff. So it's about 3.5mm, which I don't have, but it's an eighth of an inch. So we do that, and then we're going to take, should we get these out? Here it is, 3 of them. We will take off this bolt, there's 4 of those, and then we will attempt to separate this piece from this piece. So as I say, I am fully expecting this just to lift clean off without having to use any hammers or heat or anything. I might have to use some hammers or heat or something. It's loose, isn't it? It's loose. Or is it loose? Is it loose on the coupling? No, it's not loose on the coupling. Of course it's not loose on the coupling. That would be far too easy, wouldn't it? This is a long-winded, boring bit of video, isn't it? No. That is the impeller rocking inside the casing. It is not the shaft in there. So the problem is this bit here is plastic. So putting a torch on there is going to be a bit tricky without melting it. Back in a bit. So I did actually try the application of some heat into here, and it didn't work. I had used a bit of MAP gas, but only very, very lightly, because for obvious reasons, plastic and heat's not a good thing. So then I discovered on the coupling, the shaft extension as they call it, there is actually some flats machined for a spanner, so I can hold that end, but I can't hold this end. Maybe I can hold this end. So we need to get this end cap off. And to remove the end cap, you first take off 4 times 8mm little nuts. They might be 5/16, but an 8mm socket fitted the best. And then we are going to use a dead blow hammer, because this is an aluminium casting and I really don't want to break it. So there's a couple of things I can whack. I can whack on the cable entry gland here. Tap, a tap, a tap. And there is on this side, you can't see it, but there's a little slot, screwdriver size. So I don't want to do the thing where you lever or twist, because I might crack this. So again, if we put that there, and we give it a little taparoo. Something's happened. Something's broken. Oh, hello. There's the bearing, look. There's the bearing. Ooh. Lucky. Okay, right. This is going to require some closer investigation. Okay, so I skipped a few bits because basically they were boring, and they're all to do with me trying to separate the pump head from the pump body, because I can get to this bearing, as you can see it's just here. There's another bearing in there. This one, I'll show you, there's bad things have happened with this one, but first thing I'm going to do is just this actually is coming off really quite easily. On the little pillars, I was expecting a fight, because a lot of the rest of it has been fighting. Just a two-legged, very, very normal two-legged pullers. Easy peasy. Right, so that was easy enough to get the bearing off. Okay, so the bearing itself doesn't feel too bad, but there is a problem with the bearing. If you look here, there's a little tiny shoulder right there, and I think the whole bearing has been spinning inside of the case. I think it has been spinning in here, and this is a problem. Let's just see how. Yeah, look at that. Too loose. That's too loose. That'll spin in there. So that's a problem number one, because it's actually worn the casing away. The bearing itself honestly doesn't feel that bad. So that's problem number one. Problem number one. There's a shoulder in there as well. I don't know if you can see down the bottom. I think that's probably sat like that and worn a shoulder onto that edge there. As the rest of the bearing. In fact, you can see the colour of it. It's got hot, hasn't it? Yeah, it's got hot on the outer edge of the outer race, and because it's been running in there. Spinny. So possibly this is junk, unless we can think of something clever to pack it with. But the bigger problem, though, at the moment, is this end. I need to get in here. I need to get to the bearing that sits in there, and I just can't. I thought I could try and take the impeller off. If I get the impeller off, then we could pull it off this way and leave the this nut here that I've totally destroyed, if you can see, would enable me to leave the shaft on. I could get the impeller and the casing off, and then I could get three-legged puller on what's left of the shaft extension and pull that off that way, drive everything out that way to get to the bearings in there. But if I can't get off, I don't know. For the sake of a few quid, is it worth just putting a new bearing on there and just seeing what happens? But it ain't gonna last, is it? Because if that bearing's knackered, which it isn't, but then that one's not gonna be far behind. I don't want to. Maybe I do want to. Maybe we'll just put a new bearing on there and see what happens. It owes me nothing. It costs me nothing. In the meantime, let's see if I can continue to get this off. But and it might be a left-hand thread. I don't know. I actually don't know. You can't see the thread on here. This nut. It's like a weird. It's a weird cone-shaped thing. Got 3/8 on there, but now that's of course rounded off in both directions. How do we get that funny cone nut off? And what are we going to do about the casing at the other end that's loose? Progress has been made. I put that horrible coney nutty thing that I'd managed to round off with a 3/8 spanner into my vise and did it up very tight. It seems to be a brass or something, so it's very soft metal. And put my 7/8 spanner on the flats on the thing and wiggled and jiggled and jiggled and wiggled, and I think this is actually the nut coming off rather than the nut just rounding off further. It would appear to be. What's going to happen now, of course, is this whole motor assembly is going to fall off and land on my toes. And I'm wearing flip-flops, so maybe we will take it off here for a second. Oh, you're actually quite heavy. Put you on there. And let's see. Oh, look, the nut's coming off. Hello. Hello. Cool. Now, of course, none of this is going to come off. But now just bash that through. And this will come off, I believe. Hurrah! Getting there. So we got the nut off the end of there. And I have subsequently discovered that the impeller itself is actually a bronze casting as well. I thought it was kind of a, I don't know, a plastic of some sort. So now we've got the nut off, I need to get the actual impeller off the shaft. Once that's done, I can remove this coupling bit, and that will expose the shaft extension, which is a bit ultimately to get off, to pull the motor shaft out to get to the bearing that's stuck in there. Now I have discovered, and I don't know if I'm right or not, I initially just tried to pull and it didn't come, but I have discovered with the application of some loose juice, and because it is brass rather than plastic, a little bit of the old MAP gas, and where's the thing gone? Like that, so it does. It'll rotate. Don't blow a mallet again. I don't know now if the impeller itself is actually on a thread as well, or if it's just stuck. So we'll bash it round a few times. I think it might be on a thread as well, actually. It is, isn't it? Look at that. Yes. If it's not on a thread, it's obviously just winding itself off, but let's have a look. Let's have a look. That is threaded. So if you need to take the impeller off one of these Premier type pumps, that is on a thread as well. So let's put that over there. Now I would like to pull this off. So in here as well, there's going to be some sort of a seal. I was hoping it was going to be a standard kind of lip seal, because hey, while it's in bits, it would be silly not to replace it, but it looks like it is not a standard lip seal. There's a mosquito biting me right there. We don't need that, do we? No. I will investigate what the sort of seal is, because again, whilst it's in bits, it would be nice if we could. So anyway, right, finally, what I need to do is remove this piece. And once I have removed this piece, then we can drop the shaft through and get to the bearing that's in there. A couple of screws in the top there as well that probably have to come off. So how are we going to remove you? I have some ideas. So the really nice thing, of course, is that now that all that other stuff's out of the way, my little friend here, if necessary, I've got some Oxy Map, which is really, really hot. Anyway, back in a mo when I've worked out what I'm going to do. I had an idea. I had an idea. If you've got children and you're English, you'll recognise that song. Right, so the plan A is I have put the nut, that funny cone-shaped thing, back on. I've got a three-legged whacker, slide hammer, and because I can now give her a little bit of heat. I've thoroughly soaked with loose juice overnight and a few times today, so just to get it so let's get it hot, let's give it a bang. Again, I don't want to get it too hot because I don't know what's on the inside of here, but I need to get this hot. That should do to start. Let's see what happens. Hey, it falls off the thing. I don't think we've got any movement at all, have we? Brilliant. Oh, hello. Well, I wasn't expecting that to happen. Okay. Alright, well, that's a thing. Okay. Cool. Well, there we go. Something's happened. I still haven't got that off though. This is ridiculous. You're supposed to just undo the grub screws and it comes apart. I hate corrosion. I hate the way things do this. I wonder what damage I've done to the nut. I'll be back in a minute and you can see what I've knackered. Right, so as I said before, it owes me nothing. It didn't cost anything. I've got nothing to lose. I've put it back in. It has actually moved. My shaft extension thingy has actually moved. I hope I'm not doing too much damage to the thread in there. So what if I am? It didn't cost me anything. So let's try again. So it's moving. My gap has increased at the bottom, so you know. Let's try again. See what happens. Get it hot. Well, why not? There are other things we can do as well, but let's just try this one more time, see what happens. Let's pull that out. I don't want to pull that out. Hey, that is what happens. Smoking, baby. Smoking. Literally. Smoking. Oh, we are cooking on gas. So there was 2 screws, one here and one here, which I pulled out. What did that go into? Ooh, I might regret doing that. There's a thing that's fallen in there. There's a thing, look. Anyway, worry about that later, because, hurrah, here is our main issue, our main culprit. This is the bearing. Look at it, wibble wobble. This is the one that was causing all the problems, so it was worth getting in here. If we just replaced the other one and stopped it moving in the case, which I'm intending to do, we would have still had a problem. There should not be all of that motion. That bearing is knackered, so that's our problem. So this is good news. Blah, 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 blah. We might actually recover this pump, so that's good, isn't it? Today I have my little friend with me. He likes to come in the workshop because he doesn't like to be left in the house alone, and then you come here and you just get very, very, what's on your mouth? Very, very bored, don't you? You sit here very bored, but you'd rather be here bored than sat at home. Bless you. Hey, Pokey, he's a good boy. You're a good boy. So, to remove a bearing is very straightforward, usually, depending if it gets stuck or not. I've got a 2-legged puller here. You can use a 3-legged, it doesn't really matter. Ideally, you get, when we're removing, we want to pull on the inner race of the bearing, so to stop it breaking the bearing apart. Now in this case, this bearing is knackered anyway. I don't care, and in fact the legs of this puller, maybe I should have done this way around, do actually just reach into the inner race, so it is okay technically, but as I say, I really don't care. There's a little indent in the end of the shaft. It's there for machining when it goes into a lathe, but also it's very helpful for centering the puller. A bit of grease, always grease your threads a little bit, reduces your friction coefficient and increases the work that's transposed into the pulling operation. So we just apply some pressure, and this one was actually just coming straight up, so that was easy. Sometimes they don't come off that easily. Sometimes there is a problem. Sometimes you have to use heat and, you know, hammers and goodness knows what else. I cleaned it up a bit from the from when it was on the pump, but that is, see, once you get it off, they never look that bad when you get them off, but there's definitely motion there that there shouldn't be, and actually it sounds rubbish. That is a dead bearing, and that is what we will replace. The bearing mounting surface is now nice and clean, and the coupling is nice and clean. Coupling mounting surface is nice and clean. Now remember how much grief it was to get this off. I had to soak it in penetrating fluid, had to heat it up, and we had to bang it a few times with the slide hammer. Now I've taken the corrosion off there, and again, it's not TV show clean, it's just mechanically clean. The surface rust is gone. This, it just comes on and off now. Oh, so easy, the way it should be. Easy peasy. Just a bit of corrosion. I've done the same thing at this end where that bearing goes. Right, so I mentioned about the airflow. This here is a centrifugal fan. This end sits in here, and we have some Louvre type inlets here, which sit on the side of this bit of plastic, sucks the air into the middle of here, which is then centrifugally thrown out into the casing of the motor round here, and then it goes down past the windings and comes out at this end here. So what do we find in here? It's a little bit gross. If you're squeamish, well, not too bad. That would appear to be the remains of a lizard, or maybe a snake or a lizard or whatever. There's the cooling passageways around the side. You can see all these sort of holes where the air has to go, and then down this side I've got a whole flipping family of dead stuff. It's quite gross, isn't it? But the problem with that, apart from the grossness, I hope you're not squeamish, I don't care, it restricts the airflow. I mean, not massively, but while it's in pieces, let's clean it all out, blow it through, get the original the airflow back to the way it should have been. I might clean these veins up a little bit as well, but it'll just help keep the thing cool. Although it won't improve the performance half as much as having bearings that don't go like that. So again, whilst we've got the thing in pieces, it would make sense just to check the electrical condition while we've got it here. There's been no problems with it. It's not tripped an RCD. I've got no earth leakage problems that I'm aware of. Apart from the horrible bearing, it doesn't make any horrible noises like it's dropped a phase or anything. But we can have a quick check. So 3 phases between blue and white. We have 5.4 ohms resistance, 5.3, 5.4. Of course, in use that would be impedance, because it was AC. And this one is between blue and red, and we've got 5.4 again, and white and red we have 5.3, 5.4. Can't argue with that. That's within 0.1 of an ohm. Now I'm just using a basic multimeter, albeit a good quality one. We've only got 1 decimal place. If I were to an electrical shop, I would probably have something with a much higher resolution, and I would also have a device called a mega, an insulation tester, which injects a high voltage into each winding, and we can see if there's any leakage between any of the windings or the case or anything, but I can't do that. This runs off a 9-volt battery. It's just basic. They're all 3 windings, 3 phases are almost the same, certainly within the resolution of this bit of kit. So I'm happy that there's no shorts between windings, either within themselves or between windings, and obviously there's no open circuits. So I kind of knew that anyway because it worked absolutely fine. But why not while we're here? The bearings that we are going to replace are a 6203 RS part number, they are 40 millimeters external diameter, they are 17 millimeters internal diameter, and they are 12 millimeters thick. So I went to my local car parts place. They're very good. They had 6203-2RSH/C3. I don't know what the 2HC3 bits are, but the bearings were the same size. A quick Google on the SKF website showed that these are a high-speed bearing, and they will take loads in both the thrust and axial axis. I don't know if this will. It's for a pull pump, you know, whatever. €10 for SKF, which are a good brand. They did some other ones for €6 with the same part number, which were an unknown brand. So you know what, 6 or 10, whatever, let's just get a couple of those. Why not? Easy peasy. So I'm not going to go through the whole put it back together process, because it's basically the reverse of taking apart, and this video is going to be 3 hours long anyway. But I will just do a couple of little bits, a couple of little notes, if you will, of bits that are you know, hints and tricks and tips, and show you how I do some of the tricky bits. But it's very easy. It's very easy. Okay, so as promised, not showing you everything, but fast forward, the new bearing is in. I pressed it onto the shaft first, and it went into the casing, the outer race into the casing very simply. So that's not a problem, easy peasy. The bit I'm going to show you now, a little tricky bit. We have there was those screws on the top. Hello. And they went into these little things here, which actually sit on the outer race of the bearing, and I guess locate it. In fact, you can see the witness marks. Maybe no, that be the inner race. Anyway, to hold it in. So I've discovered that you can put the bearing on the shaft and in the case, and then fit this afterwards. It's a little fiddly, but it's not terrifically difficult. I will be using on reassembly copper grease. Use any sort of anti-seize that you wish, just because pull pump and, you know, corrosion, and as you all know, corrosion is bad. Just a little bit, you don't need a lot. So the plan is, I've done one side already, so I know it'll work. We have a screwdriver, we have the screw, we have our little platey thing, and we get some pliers, and we hold the pliers like this, and hold it at a little bit of an angle, but not much of an angle. I don't know if you're going to get any of this on the video. I think my hands will probably be completely in the way. Put the screw in, and now I can't see because the camera's in the way, the phone's in the way. Hello, where are you? There you are. And we'll line that up, and we put it on. Line up the hole. Hang on, screwdriver head in. No, I can't see anything because the camera's in the way. Oh, I've moved it. I want it to be like that. I can't see anything. There it is. Okay, cool, I can see it. Right. Talk amongst yourselves. My hand gets in the way of the light. First one was much easier because I wasn't videoing it, of course. I think it's about there. This bit's going to be like a 5-minute long segment, isn't it? Just doing this little bit. Are you in? No, you're not. Come on. I've done one side. So, you know, had a good week. What's your favourite music? Don't be a pain. You're being a pain. I've done one already. You might be able to see this better than me. I don't know. You might be able to see that I keep missing the screw because I can't see it. It's just about. Where is it? It's there. It's there. It's right there. Come on, don't be a sausage. Are we on? I think we might be on. Yes, so there it is. Can you see that on the screen? I don't know if you can or not. Where's my torch? Let's see if we can see it on the torch. So it is in there. Can you see that? Probably not. I can't see what I'm doing with the camera. It's in there. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So you got the little metal plate and the screw head in there. So it does actually have a little spigoty thing it rests against, which is a nice idea, so that once I've got it started, I can actually screw it the rest of the way in, like this, without having to hold it. And it rests against there. And it just as it holds the outer race in, stops it moving. So that, yeah, that's hint and tip. You can put the bearing on the shaft and the inside and get those two clampy things in with far less effort than I just did, because the first one took 10 seconds and this one only took ages because I'm filming it. Right, so a little bit more information about the housing here, the one that I had initially thought had worn out, and it possibly has a bit. But one of the nice things about learning to fix things, I am not an expert in this by any stretch of the imagination, is learning about stuff. And what I learned yesterday through the power of the internet, we all love a bit of YouTube and a bit of Google, don't we, is the way that sometimes these bearings work. Underneath the bearing is this little spring washer thing, which I had noticed when I took out, and I've given a quick clean. And this is very important, and it might mean that actually this housing is not damaged, or certainly not as badly damaged as I thought it was. So that sits in there like that. It's a wavy washer, all right? It's like a spring. These bearings sit on the end of a shaft. Oop, drop it. And it sits in there quite loosely, as we saw earlier. And apparently, in some instances, in some machines, in fact, this housing is supposed to be a little bit loose, because as the shaft gets warm, it expands lengthways, as you would expect, and this can float up and down on that little spring. I don't know if you can see the motion, but it springs. It's only a little tiny bit, but it springs on that spring. So I wonder if actually the bearing is held in place by the force of the shaft on the inner race pushing that way, and the casing with its spring pushing effectively back up this way, and hold it in place there. So I am going to do nothing with respect to repairing this cutout here. In changing the diameter of that, there was a couple of things that I had planned, again via the internet. You can have a look yourself. One of them is peening, which would have been plan 1. Plan 2 was going to be some liquid metal just to build up a little bit. There is a specific Loctite product which is not available on this island easily. I could get it if I really needed to, but I want to do it today. So what I'm going to do is nothing. I'm going to leave that as it is and assume that that springy thing is designed to hold it against the spring and the shaft, and that's what holds the bearing in place. So we'll put it back on, we'll start the motor up and see if it makes a horrible noise. If it doesn't, we'll ignore it for a bit and maybe take it apart in a month or so. If it does make a horrible noise, then obviously we've made a mistake. So I'm not going to do anything, just going to put it back together. So a couple more bits of information, bolted back together, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to put the impeller back on. There's a couple of things I want to look at before we do that. First of all, is there's a lot of scoring damage to this face here. So obviously the strainer has not caught parts or something in the past, and it's caught and it's gouged. We've got the same problem on, where is it, this the actual pump bit here as well. It's got some gougy bits. So if you know anything about impellers and turbines, tip clearance and clearances is vitally important. And in my previous life as an aircraft engineer, turbine tip clearances was like the golden thing in aircraft engine efficiency. I'm going to do nothing about that. This pump has been working perfectly well for goodness knows how many years with the damage in there. I'm going to lose a bit of efficiency, I don't care. Right, that's the first thing. Second thing is this seal. I'll just note, when I reassembled this, I haven't, I've put the extension shaft back in and I put the grub screws in loosely to locate it on the motor shaft, but I haven't done it up. I want it to float because I want to set the height of the impeller correctly. If I just randomly put that in, I don't know whether, so we're going to put the impeller back on and do it up and get just that little bit of clearance here as it was previously, and then we'll do those up. Good. So what I'm talking about is this seal here. This is not a lip seal as I had been expecting, which is kind of the normal thing. This is a face seal. So the sealing face itself is actually the top, on the top of here, this little surface here, and it rubs against the back of the impeller. It rubs on this surface right here, so that needs to be nice and clean, and it's held there with a spring underneath. This is sprung, you can see that, but this there's a constant tension applied, and that's one of the reasons for setting the impeller height, is I need to get that tension on there to make the seal work. It's a water lubricated seal, so that's fine. They are still available. I can buy one if I want for $8.39 from the US of A. Probably get them in Europe somewhere. You know, if it leaks, we'll do it, but for the moment, I want the pump back in today. I want it working. But I also discovered something else, which I have to see if I can do something about, and that is there should be, and it is not present in this one, there should be a little O-ring here, number 3. Little O-ring, which is supposed to sit into that relief just there. If you can see that. Should be an O-ring in that bit there, which then I guess sits in like that and in the gap there, whatever. So I've got a box of O-rings. I'll see if I can find one that fits. If I can't, seeing as it wasn't there and I took it apart, I'm going to put it back together without it, because it wasn't, there was the tiniest, not even a drip, just a weep, a stain of water, if you like. I don't care. Again, €500 pump versus $20 on bearings. It's not going to be, if it's not perfect, I'm not fussed. If it leaks badly, I'll get a new seal. But for the moment, we're going to just put it back together and see if we can find an O-ring that fits that. Just to show off, so that is the dimensions of the O-ring that is missing. 1/2 inch internal, 11/16 inch external, and a diameter, if you like, of the cross-sectional area, 3/32 of an inch. Oh my goodness, look at this. In my little box of bits, number 112 is 3/32 by 1/2 by 11/16. Boom! Easy peasy. Ah, damn! Well, the motor repair is brilliant. It is lovely and silent and spins and it's smooth and it's lovely, but that seal, that face seal, is leaking bad, really bad. So that's going to require something doing about it. I wonder if I can use the old one. Right, stay, but look, lovely. Beautiful, quiet, nice. Let's turn the power off and turn it off, and open the valve. And, oh no. Oh no. This is no good. I can't do this. Okay, well, have to come up with a plan B. There will be a plan B. Right, so who knows if this is going to work or not. We'll find out in a minute. The seal that lives under here was the one that was leaking. It's that face seal. It needs pressure. It's held down by this clamping onto the motor shaft. I couldn't make it work. It's leaky. In fact, I'll show you that one. Let me show you that one. I'll show you in a second. So what I've done, I've nicked the one out of there and we've just put it in there very quickly, swapped over the whole assembly, this flange coupling thing and the impeller, the old impeller and the whole thing. Why not just swap it straight over? Did a couple of other little things. You will find, if you do one of these, you might find that these bolts here, the 3/8 by 1 inch bolts that go through the foot and the flange and into the motor, I found them very short. You can only get a couple of threads there into the motor. That's very short. So I went to my car place, I bought some inch and a quarter bolts, a little bit longer just to get a bit more purchase in there. They are 3/8 by 16, so that's a UNC, 3/8 UNC bolts. While I was there, because I'd done these and I'd actually pulled it because it was so little, I ran a tap down there, the 3/8 by 16 UNC. So we've got some nice new threads in there, slightly longer bolts, and the new seal, the old seal, the old new seal, the new old seal. And we'll see if it leaks. I'll show you, I'll stop this, so I'll take it apart and I'll show you what they look like, the seals. We did have the briefest of brief looks at these earlier because it wasn't a thing, but now it's become a thing. I'm more interested. So these they seem to be standard across just about all pool pumps, certainly in this size range, 1 horsepower to 3 horsepower or thereabouts. Bit of Googling, let's work out how they work. So this is a Teflon ring here. This is a ceramic ring here, and what happens is the ceramic ring presses against the top, this top edge here of the Teflon ring, and that is what actually causes the seal. So it's literally just the force of these two being together is what stops the water coming through. Now this is on a spring, and obviously you need to have some tension against that spring to get the seal. That's accomplished with the shaft extension thingy pulling down on the impeller to hold it against there. So I might have been able to make it work with a bit of mucking around with this and trying to make it a bit tighter, but the face of this, the bearing surface bearing, the sealing surface, particularly, where's a pokey thing around here, doesn't look brilliant. So these are removable. This pops out and this will come out as well, not now because I'm on the video, but this comes out, this comes out. They're replaceable. I showed you on the computer, $9 or $8 or something. So we'll try this one. You'll see it in a moment, and if it still leaks, then new seal time. So grand total so far, €20 for 2 new bearings, and then potentially whatever it costs for the new seal. Those bolts I actually got for free. The taps were €20 for 3, but they're, say, 3x16, which is a similar size to use, exactly the same size used by a lot of parts in Mercruiser engines, which I work on a lot. So they will be used again. But anyway, in total, €40 expenditure, 20 of which on the taps will be used on other things, versus 500 for a new one. Let's see if it works. No. 90% improvement. Usable. Dripping. It does have a drip. I don't know if we can see it on the camera. So previously, obviously, it was spraying everywhere like a geezer. So, you know what? I'm going to live with that. We've had no pump for I don't know, over a week or so. The pool's got a nice scum on top of it. No chlorine going through it. So not great. I will order that seal because obviously we need a seal. But I'm going to live with that. That'll do. So yeah, €40 plus the seal, let's say 10 plus postage, maybe €60. So 10% of the price of a new pump. Listen to it, listen. Oh, isn't that a nice noise? Isn't that quiet?